Okay, we will be starting in just a couple of minutes. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Karama Yemen Human Rights Film Festival's second edition launch and panel discussion event. أهلا وسهلا بكم في حفل إطلاق مهرجان كرامة اليمن لأفلام حقوق الإنسان تزامنا مع اليوم العالمي لحقوق الإنسان. اسمي فاطمة البيتي. My name is Fatma Al-Baiti and I will be your host and your moderator for today's event. لمتحدثين اللغة العربية ممكن إنكم تضغطوا على أيقونة الانتربريتيشن في زوم اللي تشبه الكرة الأرضية عشان يكون في ترجمة باللغة العربية. الإيفنت بيواصل باللغة الإنجليزية إن شاء الله. For those who prefer to hear the event in Arabic, please click on the globe icon in the Zoom conference window to select the language. If any of the viewers have any questions, please write them in the Zoom chat box or on a comment on our Facebook page as this goes live. We are live today for Karama Yemen Human Rights Festival on its second edition, and we are thrilled to start today's event by telling you a little bit more about the festival. You'll be hearing from our esteemed guests, EU Ambassador, His Excellency, Mr. Grundberg Hans, a Youth of the World Together organization, YWT CEO, Nasser Almang, Yemeni novelist and human rights activist, Atiaf Alwazir, and Yemeni journalist and filmmaker, Mariam Al-Dhubhani. And our speakers will take part in a panel discussion to talk about the role of creatives in human rights advocacy. This year's theme encourages us to really question and imagine what if human rights were practiced rightfully in our world today. The festival will host more than 30 local, regional, and international films under our world theme. The films are a mix of fiction, documentary, and animation. In just a couple of seconds, we will be screening a small teaser of the films that will be featured.
طبعا بسبب سوء الأحوال المعيشية عندنا في البلد صعب الحصول هنا على وظيفة. أحرقت قلبي على اليمن الصعيدي ردت الدنيا سلامي ونشيد. أنا بطل مملكة صورتي شباب وجبت فيها برونزية عرب. معك 5 دقايق تخلي بيتك. حافي يلعب معكم؟
5. Lo que recuerdan, yo llamaba a mi papito. Hijo, ya párate.
خبريني عن لما تعرفت على بابا. شفرت أنا مش رح أنساك. Stop.
بس ماشيين يعني الحمد لله. الواحد اللي يقضي حاجته وبيقضي شغله.
وصلي زعبت تنامي وسلام سعر أكون نمشي لي.
This time the festival is different because it is virtual for everyone, and that is due to COVID-19. So we do want to ensure that everyone remains safe during these tricky times. This will also mean that you will be able to watch all these films at the comfort of your own home, wherever you are in this world. To sign up for this festival, the procedure is very simple and the tickets are free of charge. We will now feature a video, an introductory video of how to sign up for this event.
عالم تتخيله أولاً ثم نساهم جميعاً في بنائه. مهرجان كرامة اليمن لأفلام حقوق الإنسان يعود في دورته الثانية، والذي تنظمه منظمة شباب العالم معاً YWT، حاملاً معه روح الحق والجمال وقيمه الفنية والحقوقية، والتي ستحمل في مضمونها تساؤلاً مهماً: ماذا لو كانت حقوق الإنسان تعيش في عالمنا؟ كيف لو كان بإمكاننا تخيل وجود عالم تسوده قيم وحقوق الإنسان؟ عالمنا وحقوق الإنسان. سيشارك في مهرجان كرامة اليمن لأفلام حقوق الإنسان أكثر من 30 فيلما، ما بين أفلام محلية، إقليمية وعالمية. وستتنوع الأفلام المشاركة بين الأفلام الوثائقية، الروائية والأنيميشن. ولأن الجائحة ما تزال تشكل خطراً على حياتكم، سيحتضن العالم الأزرق مهرجان كرامة اليمن هذه المرة، وستصبح لديك القدرة على مشاهدة الأفلام المشاركة في أي مكان كنت في العالم، في دفء وبرفقتك من تحب. من أجل حضور المهرجان يجب عليك الدخول لموقع المهرجان. سترى حينها الأفلام في مجموعات، بإمكانك اختيار المجموعة التي تفضلها، وحينها قم بشراء التذكرة التي ستتيح لك مشاهدة مجموعتك المفضلة. قم بتعبئة البيانات وسيصلك رابط على إيميلك. عبر الرابط بإمكانك مشاهدة المجموعة التي اخترتها، لكن تذكر بأنه لديك 24 ساعة فقط لمشاهدة المجموعة التي اخترتها، ومن ثم لن تعود قادرا على مشاهدتها مرة أخرى، وستبقى الفرصة متاحة لك لشراء تذكرة أخرى ومشاهدة مجموعة أخرى إن أحببت. سنخبرك بسر صغير: بإمكانك شراء تذكرة حضور المهرجان من دون أن تدفع مبلغا ماليا مقابل ذلك، ولكن تذكر عدد التذاكر محدود. لمن يتساءلون كيف يبدو العالم في ظل حقوق الإنسان، ويدفعه التساؤل سريعا لأخذ التذكرة التي تضمن له حضور المهرجان. مهرجان كرامة اليمن لأفلام حقوق الإنسان لا يحتوي على استعراض الأفلام المشاركة فقط، بل سينقلنا معا إلى العالم الحقيقي لصناعة الأفلام. وهذا يعني بأنه وبعد انتهاء من مشاهدة الأفلام المشاركة، سيحتوي المهرجان على جلسات نقاشية مع مخرجي وصانعي الأفلام، لنرى ونسمع منهم كيف كانت رحلتهم في صناعة أفلامهم أفلامهم. وبإمكانكم مشاهدة الجلسات على البث المباشر لصفحة منظمة YWT على فيسبوك. ستتنافس الأفلام المشاركة في مهرجان كرامة اليمن على جائزة بران لأفضل فيلم وثائقي، أفضل فيلم درامي، أفضل فيلم أنيميشن، وأفضل فيلم يمني. الأفلام الفائزة سيتم اختيارها عن طريق مجموعة من صناع الأفلام وخبراء من الوسط الفني، الثقافي والحقوقي من مختلف دول العالم. مستعد لتخيل كيف سيبدو عالمنا في عالم تسوده قيم وحقوق الإنسان؟ مهرجان كرامة اليمن لأفلام حقوق الإنسان، عالم.
I hope everybody has found the video simple and easy to follow. These videos will be available on our social media channels so that you are able to refer to them whenever needed and whenever the festival is up and running. We will now resume with our much awaited event. And I would like to hand over to our first speaker for today, Mr. Nasser Almang, the founder and CEO of YWT.
Hello, thank you, Fatma. I would like to first thank all of you for being here today. Welcome to all our viewers and our estimated guests for taking part in this important event. I would also like to thank my team for working very hard to make this success. And we call it, it's finally here. We made it. It has been an incredible journey so far. We couldn't have it done this without the team who worked on Karama Yemen first edition. I want to thank them very much. And I also, with thanks, and like to extend my gratitude to our main sponsors, the European Union delegation to Yemen, for believing in this important event and for their continuous support. And I will not forget for sure the National Endowment of Democracy for their exceptional support. Today is an important day for us because we believe in the power of arts. We believe in the power of films. I believe personally that the art delivers the voice of the voiceless. This year theme is all about dreaming and imagining together what we can achieve to build a world that believes in granting everyone their rights, their basic rights. This is what inspired us to start this festival in the first place. War in Yemen has made achieving these dreams and their rights very challenging. One way that we can help to resolve this is by supporting the creative industry in Yemen and focus more in equipping our youth with the knowledge and skills to start becoming part of the change. I am now honored to announce the official start date of Karama Yemen Human Rights Film Festival in its second edition, which will take place from the 18th of this month till the 31st of December. The film submission that we had this year are incredible, and I cannot wait for everyone to watch them and be inspired. Thank you for being here, and I would like now to welcome His Excellency Ambassador Hans Grundberg to give his opening statement.
Thank you very much, Nasser, and also thank you very much, Fatma, for having me here. It is with a great joy that I join you. About a year ago, we had a more physical version of the Human Rights Film Festival in Amman, and obviously I look forward to the possibility of having these events in a more physical setting. But still, despite that, I'm extremely happy that we are able to organize this in this setting and able to spread the important work that has been done to a global audience. So thank you very much, Nasser, for your tireless efforts on this. And exactly as you mentioned, I'm also joining you today at the very important, it is an important day. It is the Human Rights Day, the International Human Rights Day, where the world stands in commemoration of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So I don't think that there is any better day chosen than this one for this event. As you know, human rights are at the heart of the European Union since a long period of time. Only a few days ago, the European Union managed to adopt its new action plan on human rights and democracy, which then goes from 2020 and 4 years forward until 2024. And this action plan reaffirms the European Union's commitment to advance universal values and respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, rule of law, respect for human rights across the world. And when I enumerate all these words, I think that everyone here will agree with me that these are principles that are crucial for a country such as Yemen as well. In few places, this call to respect human rights is more, it is therefore not, it is urgent, and there is no more pertinent place to do so than in Yemen. And the conflict has aggravated human rights violations, as we all know, and the socioeconomic crisis has added layers of vulnerability on the Yemeni people. And the ongoing, in addition to that, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has also affected negatively on the upholding of human rights. It has deepened pre-existing violations, and it has also increased the pressure on persons in vulnerable situations. However, Yemenis need to know that they deserve their rights to be respected. And this is where the immense value of arts, culture, and creativity comes into play. And because very few actors can help get the conversation started as cultural and artistic creators can. It is absolutely clear. And therefore, we do need your help in upholding human rights in Yemen. Culture has an enormous symbolic force for shared identity, cohesion, peace, and development. In that respect, arts foster the creative and innovative thinking that is the base of human progress. Without art, I don't think that we would see that level of progress. And you will have seen this throughout the Talk About Yemen campaign. And there, the EU continues to stress the importance of art and cultural heritage as the soul of the Yemeni nation. And if some of you participated in the launch of the exhibition that was curated by Fatma Al-Baiti and the discussion that we had in that regard, I think that there were a number of very good points that were made by the participants there. And I do hope that the coming discussion will take that discussion forward, because I think it is absolutely crucial for Yemen to have that vivid discussion ongoing. I think you all know, and this is a saying around the world, that the Yemeni crisis or the Yemeni conflict or the Yemeni war is a forgotten one. I would want to challenge that notion. I would not want to say that it is forgotten. I would say that it's much worse than that. I would say that it is overlooked. If you say that it is forgotten, you in a way excuse those who do not pay attention to Yemen for having not having it in their minds. But saying that it is an overlooked conflict means that you actually do know what is going on, but you do not care enough to act on it. And that, I think, is a more accurate description of the situation. And therefore, when we talk about Yemen, we cannot just see the conflict. When you Google Yemen, you might see a picture of misery and destruction, and this might be the result of 6 years of conflict, which Yemenis will need to manage and to come to an end with. But those 6 years of conflict cannot destroy what Yemen is. And I have seen that in real terms. I have visited Yemen, and I have seen some of the most beautiful places that I have seen in my life. Therefore, we must engage in a discussion on how to link Yemen's past with its future. And Yemenis, such as all of you, need to believe in Yemen's future. And because culture has an important role to play in building the peace and the reconciliation that Yemen deserves, we will continue to team up with artists and to help all of you to achieve this vision. And I look forward to the screenings during this Yemen Karama Film Festival, and I wish you all that you are all able to join the fruitful discussions in the different discussions panels along the festival. And I also wish that after this pandemic comes to an end, we could bring these films to the streets of Yemen and to be with you once more in your beautiful country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your kind thoughts. Thank you, Nasser. I am now more than thrilled that we move on to our panel discussion. But before I do that, I'm going to introduce you to our panel speakers and tell you a little bit more about them before we start the question and answer session. First of all, I'd like to start with His Excellency, Ambassador Grundberg. He was appointed as Ambassador of the European Union to Yemen on the 1st of September 2019. He is a career diplomat with the Middle East and conflict resolution as his primary focus, often having combined posts both to Sweden and EU missions abroad. His previous posts include Cairo and Jerusalem. Nasser Almang is a producer, social and cultural activist. He is also the founder and CEO of YWT organization. Nasser has extensive years of experience in nonprofit, media, and campaign management on social media, and he truly believes in the power of art, culture, media, and technology to create change that matters. Mariam Al-Dhubhani is a Yemeni-Russian award-winning journalist and filmmaker. She first pursued her passion for media during the 2011 Arab Upsprings and co-founded her first media production. Al-Dhubhani's films have been screened globally in festivals such as Carthage and Interfilm. I hope I said that correctly. She also utilizes virtual reality in highlighting stories from Yemen. And last but certainly not least, Atiaf Alwazir is a Yemeni writer and human rights activist, citizen journalist with countless contributions to platforms such as the Huffington Post, Al-Jazeera, and Middle East Eye. She is also a blogger and the co-founder of media advocacy groups of the group Support Yemen. Welcome to our dear panel members. It is a true pleasure to have you here today. I would just like to remind everyone that they are welcome to put in their questions in the Zoom chat box or on the Facebook comments. So is everybody ready? Brilliant. Okay, so I'll start with my first question, and this is really to all our panel members. How would you rate artists' involvement within the human rights agenda or the work that is happening? Shall we start with our Excellency and your thoughts on this question?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? You were very quick and I didn't hear it. Can you repeat it? Rate, how I can rate?
Artists' involvement within the human rights agendas or the work.
No, but I think that on the basis of what I just said in the introductory speech that I held, I think that the artists community and the role of culture within the overall promotion of basic human rights is crucial. Because artists, wherever you are in the world, will promote a discussion. It will be a discussion among communities, among subgroups, that sometimes can be provoking and sometimes can push an envelope forward. But at least it generates a real discussion. And we can see that it's not only Yemen, we can see that globally, and that the culture is an essential part in the political discourse of a country, and also in the way for keeping a broader discussion alive. So therefore I think that it is absolutely crucial.
Thank you. I would like to move on to Atiaf. As someone who's been working in the human rights field, what are your thoughts on this?
Sure. I think there's been an amazing, we see a lot of amazing work by Yemeni artists inside and outside. We see artists who work on documenting human rights violations through their creative work. We see artists who document the process of how to overcome trauma and how to overcome or challenge these human rights violations, which is also as important as documenting violations. We see artists who inspire, artists who bring joy, which is not naive, it's very, very much needed. Entertainment is vital for our well-being, right? We need also to sometimes smile. We need to find joy in order for us to be able to continue living in such chaotic and ugly times sometimes, right? We see artists who give us hope, right? Who allow us to, through their work, through their writing, through their films, who allow us to imagine a better future. And that is also very important because it gives us ideas of how to change course, how to think of new solutions to old problems, and how to make ourselves even better. Because I think the most important thing about art is that it allows us as individuals to connect with our emotions, and that I think is the root of healing and of peace building, maybe.
Thank you very much, Atiaf. I do agree with you. I would also love to hear from Mariam, who has been active as well in the field of filmmaking recently. And so Mariam, how would you rate the involvement of artists as well, especially in this field?
It is a very difficult question because it's hard to kind of quantify what art does. But following on the lines as what Ambassador Hans said and Atiaf, for me personally, how I'm gonna see it is when it starts counter, not balancing, but kind of countering the number of people carrying guns in the streets. And the less we see guns and the more we see brushes, cameras, I don't know, a pen, that is when the true change will come. Just people reading, writing, taking photos, enjoying the food of their soul, because that's what art is. That is when I can tell you that, okay, in the streets of Sana'a, streets of Aden, or streets of Hudaydah, that is where we see art is replacing war.
That actually ties in very nicely with my second question, which is, how do you think creatives can actually help address some of these issues? And like you said, instead of picking up guns, it would be best to sort of like express what they're going through in art forms, which is really, it's really incredible. And I suppose it would be interesting to find out, like, what are some of the challenges that would actually prevent people from going to that direction? Wouldn't it be easier for them to leave art because it might not be interpreted as a necessity, especially at such times?
If I can, could I jump in? Is that possible? Or maybe Nasser, you want to I'm sorry. I promised I was going to make myself as little as possible, but I cannot stop myself. I'm so sorry. I will say it very quickly. What's in my head, and that a diplomat should never do. I am right now sitting in a setting with non-Yemenis, but in another setting which is a separate one, but where people have been engaging in a conflict, and we're trying to approach this conflict by having the participants tell stories instead of telling what they have experienced for real. And it is a very fascinating process that we then see by that way of imagining something surreal that ties into reality. And I think that this is a process that is a self-defense mechanism that will never cease to exist. And it will express itself whether you want it or not. And therefore, Fatma, I think that your question is, if I may say, wrong, because I don't think it will never cease to exist. It will have a difficulty to express itself openly, perhaps, because people might want to push it away. But the way of using our imagination to cope with our suffering cannot cease, because that's who we are. We are a human after all. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with yourself. There shouldn't be like any limitations. I suppose for people who feel frustrated and wouldn't necessarily turn to arts, it would be interesting to find out how we can encourage this specific group of people. Atiaf, do you have something to add to this? Like, how do you think we could overcome such challenges?
Yeah, I think I wanted to add on that. I think artists are positioned in a place, a very important place, which is they're allowed, or we are allowed, to ask questions no one else is allowed to ask. For some reason, there's a green light, right? And that is so important because it allows us to really ask the difficult questions in a safe space. Sometimes it's not so safe, and that's something that should be strengthened and could be strengthened. But we can ask questions that push dogma. So all these dogmatic thinking, the linear thinking, the political polarized spaces, it's either that or that, that goes out of the window when you work with artists or when you work on creative things, right? Because you're asking questions that are not this or black and white. You're pushing the boundary of the way we see the world. And that is so important to change the way we think. So if we look at human rights agenda, a lot of it has to do with dealing with prejudices, right? A prejudice against race, against sex, against class, against different types of prejudices, identity. And if we work on changing or allowing the space to speak, to talk, to think of different scenarios than the ones we're used to seeing, that actually really opens up the space for hopefully a better human rights record, and for people themselves to start seeing a different narrative. And I think that is really important and could bring people together. The other thing about art is that it makes you think, makes you put yourself in the other person's shoe. So you develop empathy and you develop compassion. And that then you can bring different sides together through, as was said already, storytelling, for example.
Thank you, Atiaf. Mariam, how do you think creatives can help address some of these issues regarding human rights?
Fatima, I want to follow up with the previous question, if you don't mind, and then I'll jump to this one. I'd give you an example of what's happening to creatives and artists in Yemen, because us being abroad, we do have the luxury of finding a source of income and be able to do our art or to pursue our passion in the art field that we are in. However, people who are inside, they're drawn within the war machine because art is not a source of income. Art is a luxury. An example of that is a documentary I found in Old Sana'a City, and the silversmiths that are doing something that has been in thousands of years part of Yemeni culture, are now closing their shops and just working on a motorcycle or a small bus driving people around because their source of livelihood is no longer providing. And therefore, it's either joining the war or sending their kids to war if in case they're not capable to do so themselves. And on the other hand, what happened in Old Sana'a City is that the market was flooded with the cheap Chinese replicas, which affected all the traditional Yemeni silver works. And that's horrible. That's killing our soul from within, because at the end of the day, you can't tell an artist starve and keep doing your art regardless, because we need you. We need to support these artists, whether us individuals abroad by, I don't know, lending a hand and sharing opportunities, or through what Ambassador you're doing with the EU, providing funding for projects related to art and culture to sustain that, instead of what's happening to some entities or countries that are supporting the war in a way, on the war machine, through providing guns. So instead of providing guns, we provide income for artists. I feel like that will withdraw youth and people from joining the war just to live, but they can live out of their art, if that makes sense. And here is our role as creatives. I try to do that through my films, through highlighting the life of a young soldier, Ali, for example, who is a civil engineer. He is supposed to work as a civil engineer, trying to rebuild the country he's in. Instead, he is carrying a gun, standing at a checkpoint at a mindless, endless routine, where sometimes when there is a conflict, he would join the front line, risking his life to provide for his little siblings. So how do we refrain someone who's educated and who we never thought he would carry a gun from joining the front line into being able to live with dignity and be able to provide for himself and his family?
Okay, thank you, Mariam.
Yeah, just to add to what Mariam said, it's, yeah, I mean, people, especially when we talk about support arts and culture in Yemen, all let's say international community or other people from outside, they think it's kind of a luxury. It's not important right now. Let's focus on humanitarian relief. Let's focus on peace process. But what I think it's so important to focus on, but I think we should focus on art and culture more. Like the the environment for that in Yemen, it's promising environment, and youth is so creative and have like huge power and energy that we should right now support it, and especially in the art and culture. So art is not a luxury, it's a source of income. It's a powerful weapons to promote peace and to enhance these value that we want to have in Yemen. So yeah, just that.
Thank you, Nasser. You mentioned that art it's not a luxury, but I'd like to touch up on the role of international communities in that aspect, and also in supporting human rights movement in Yemen, potentially as well through art. How do you think that the international community can do that?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned, so we need to start supporting these youth, and to just use art as a source of income. They can make a living and support their family doing arts in Yemen. But right now, as Mariam said, people start to do other works to just live. So we need to increase the funding and supporting for art, for youth, and support them in art, and not just as I mentioned, as a luxury. Let's focus as a way to promote human rights, as a way to promote peace building, and also to as a way of economic development. So so art can increase the economic development in Yemen, and can support many families. So this is what I think.
Atiaf, as someone who writes about Yemen often, what would your advice be in order to reach out to the international community to tell them about the human rights movement in Yemen?
I think, the international community can help in one way is maybe facilitating exchanges between regional artists, hopefully after COVID in person, but now maybe through virtual, like we're doing now. More partnerships between artists inside Yemen from different parts of the country, not just the main cities. That would be great, helping in terms of providing more space, maybe even training on art management, trainings on how to curate. Lots of these things are unfortunately very difficult for Yemenis, mainly also because many can't get out, right? But now that with all these virtual trainings, maybe that's a chance, that for people to participate in more of these kind of events and more of these exchanges, I would say. And I just want to say something quickly, and maybe it's an obvious, but maybe something sometimes we have to say when we talk about art in Yemen's situation, is that we're not saying, I don't think any of us are saying that art is the solution for everything, right? It can't be. But art, of course, art is the stepping stone for especially on the human rights, to bring people, to inspire people to action, because people don't connect. When you read a human rights report, you don't get as much connection as when you watch a film. There's an emotion, you feel a connection to a human being, to a person, and that's what then makes people, create solidarity from people around the world, and also as seeing people as people, not just numbers, right? I think that could be helpful.
Ambassador, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you raised your hand to contribute to the question?
It was, and it links in very well to this, to the ongoing discussion. I think that right now, I will turn this into something hopeful. Right now, there's ongoing debate globally, but and I look obviously much more to Europe, but I assume that you have a debate globally that is the same with COVID, and that is that artists' usual sources of income have been reduced drastically globally. And that is right now a major challenge for a number of people, and I will express my participation in their difficulties that they are facing, having from one day to another seen their source of income disappear. But on the hopeful side, I think it has generated a debate within a number of countries, and I see that in Europe, about the role of culture in society. And that debate is quite refreshing, because it's a debate on where you lose the scenes for culture, and all of a sudden you realize that you missed them, and all of a sudden you start debating about what they have contributed. So I think, and I hope, that when the COVID situation is over, there will be a greater understanding for the role of art and culture in society, and that in a situation like in Yemen could also help countries' donors to also understand about the need to provide funds for artists and for culture in countries in need, such as Yemen. So I think that that's my way of turning this into something more hopeful, even though right now I realize it is a challenge.
Thank you, Ambassador. Mariam, would you like to add something before I move on to the next question?
No, I think this is very exciting discussion. Keep going.
Now I'd like to go into a more of a local level, I suppose, which is the role of local NGOs in supporting human rights movement. It could be as a whole or through the creative industry in particular. Have you come across that kind of support yourself, Mariam, or have you actually witnessed it happening to other artists that are based in Yemen?
I didn't get the point. Could you please kind of rephrase? What did you mean?
Yes. So we have looked at what kind of support can the international community give to artists or art practitioners in Yemen. Do you think that there is some kind of level of support from more local NGOs or platforms that could provide to Yemeni artists and practitioners? It could be to those who are more established abroad, or the ones that are actually in Yemen at the moment, if it actually.
I'll tell you frankly, the only one that I heard of, and I know a friend of mine applied and got support, is Afaq. Afaq has done amazing supporting fund through, in collaboration with UNESCO, which is a panel I attended, and my friend who is an artist in Aden, he applied and he got it, and it helped him kind of get through, not only to get kind of a source of income, but also to pass time with a creative work, which is the ultimate soul healing, I believe. But unfortunately, there wasn't any other places, Yemen-based, whether inside or outside, that did the same. And I feel in a way we're way behind, because when the unfortunate explosion happened in Beirut, there were so many more local and international NGOs that were offering support and help to Lebanese artists. But in comparison, we did not really have any of that besides Afaq, not that I know of. And I feel like that is where there is an opportunity to work on, like places like YWT could jump into an opportunity like this, or other NGOs who are listening, or could be a call to support proposals in this regard, because it's extremely important.
Thank you, Mariam. Atiaf, it's a similar question, but I suppose it's also I've just thought of not only the like local NGOs that maybe work in arts. Have you heard of any potentially local NGOs that actually work within human rights movements, or if that's what they advocate for, kind of support artists in delivering messages that are, human rights oriented?
Yeah, I think there are a number of, I would say, NGOs and initiatives, local initiatives inside Yemen as well, and in the region. The problem, like Mariam mentioned, I think is a problem of donors not funding enough organizations inside Yemen that do, for example, purely creative work. They often have to have something political on the side, and it's very difficult, as we all know, in the current environment in Yemen. And so Yemenis, I think, find themselves kind of stuck in that sense because especially creatives, you need a lot of space. So you have organizations like, you know, the Basement or local initiatives that like Kitabat that have brought a bunch of writing poets together to write about the war, and they, you know, you have a bunch now that right now I can't remember. You have these things, but we don't have fellowships, for example, in Yemen, artist residencies where someone can go and for 1 month sit and finish a book, or finish your film, or finish your screenplay, or finish whatever you're working on. And so most countries in the region have that, or have some sort of support. And I think that's something really that can definitely be strengthened. We can do partnerships with like Afaq, we could do partnerships with other NGOs that, or donor organizations that work on that. Maybe the EU can fund that. But in addition, we also need something that like legal aid for artists who cross the red line, maybe, or aid, kind of support, especially artists who are considered political. If you cross the red line, if you find yourself under threat, sometimes you need help on, okay, what can I do? And that there are organizations that can support that.
Just to add to, if you allow me, Fatma, just to add to what Atiaf and Mariam said, yes, as you mentioned, the international support is so important, but we should focus also in locally in how we can partners together and work together to improve that industry. Unfortunately, there is no many players, let's say NGOs working in a culture. There is some they aren't doing a good job, but I feel like we all work individually. And I think from, you know, from this panel, I would like, you know, to just let them and you know, request and ask to just cooperate together and work together. So to develop this industry, I know that the fund is little to culture and art in Yemen, but if we work together, we would you know, convince a lot of donors who just support art for sake of arts, not support art just, you know, for politic reason or for a humanitarian reason, just support arts because they support art. So I think we need to work together. We need to create more partnership so we help each other, and also the individual artists, people who live in exile, can support by doing mentorship. I would like to thanks Mariam. We have a project with her. She's volunteering with us as a mentor with 2 filmmakers who's working in their films and will be screened in the festival, and she's doing it, you know, volunteering from her. I thank you, Mariam. We need to have these kind of also just, you know, exchange experience together. By this, we will, you know, develop this culture. But as you mentioned, we need funds, but we need also more partnership together.
Would any of the panel members like to make any additions?
Well, I think a lot of the comments were directed to me as a representative of the global donor community, and where there's a lot of pressure on me right now. No, I have taken good notes, and everything you say makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, I have to say, and this is where I enter into the scope of the challenges that we face in Yemen, which are particular for Yemen, and that is the catch-22 about art and peace. On one side, we say, and I said in the beginning, that we need art and we need culture to promote peace. But then another part of me would say that without peace, I will not be able to support art. And that is a reality, unfortunately, and it's very difficult to come around. In order for an entity such as the European Union to be as efficient as possible in Yemen, we need to be present inside Yemen. And for the moment, we're not. And this is a real challenge. So for me, the immediate priority will always be to have the guns come to a silence and for us to come back to Yemen. And for us, I mean us, the European Union and its member states, to be back and help Yemenis build Yemen back to where it should be. But in parallel, I hear you loud and clear. In parallel, there are more things that can be done. But it is challenging to be absolutely honest. The fact that you're not on the ground will limit the scope of your ability as a donor, and I had long discussions with the head of the corporation in the delegation about this, and we try to find ways around it, but it's not always easy.
We have a lot of questions specifically from Facebook, and I think a couple of people here on Zoom asking about how they can access support. I don't know, Nasser, would you like to tell us a little bit about that, since you are working in this field actively?
Yes. So, I mean, if your question about artists, how they can find support, I mean, there is, like, as we mentioned, there is some of organization that is providing opportunities like training, mentorship opportunities, and also funds sometimes. And here in YWT, we have a program that every year we support young filmmakers with small grants and also with mentorship, so they could just work on their films and produce the film that they want to produce. We just closed an opening call for our partnership with New York Film Academy, which is supported by the UNESCO and the European Union too, which like a 6 weeks program that will be training by a well-respected institution for filmmaking. I feel like for young people to focus is to keep applying, even like local opportunities or international opportunities. I know some people will think, okay, I apply this and I get denied, and they will just lose hope and give up. I think we need to I know the opportunities for Yemeni is little, especially if you live in Yemen. But I think there is a way that you can, through even local organization or international organization or regional organization, to do. Just keep applying. This is what I want to tell them. Yeah. And hopefully with YWT programs that we can support, we cannot support all of the youth, but we are trying our best to provide these kind of projects that will provide a source of income to them, that provide them with the skill needed to develop and to work on.
Thank you, Nasser, and thank you as well, Ambassador, for your advice on what has been said regarding funding. We are approaching the close of the hour, but I think a lot of you had mentioned something or another about partnerships. So one of the questions that I was eager to ask is, how can we establish these partnerships? How can we start the conversations? Atiaf, you mentioned stuff about not just aid, but also like legal aid and all that. Do you think this is when conversations can start between people who work in the human rights field and those artists who actually need that kind of support? Where can we begin?
I think two ways maybe. One is through stories. Just everybody shares their own story, because there isn't one Yemen in the sense that the media shows. There's one like monolithic Yemen that everybody thinks that's the country. There are many different stories. People come from different backgrounds, different ways of thinking, different opinions. We need all these stories to show what Yemen is, and need all these people to talk to each other. So however we do the storytelling, whether it's through Zoom, whether it's through trainings, whether it's through just reading each other's work and commenting, films, but the most important aspect here is that there is an interaction, not just that I produce something. We live in a world where we're so focused on production that if I don't produce, then I'm not an artist, I'm not creative. That's not true. As long as you're doing the stuff, that's what we need to focus on, right? We need to work, I need to be, doing my creative work and then engaging with others. It could be one other person. I think that's where it needs to start. And on that, I think if the other, I guess, partnership is with ourselves, that sounds strange, but I do believe that if we each have the intention of living creatively, me, myself, for example, me as a mother, I intend to creatively, hopefully, raise my daughter, which means I don't do everything that I was told 100%. I should question, does this really make sense or not? And in that sense, when I cook, I try to be creative. When I wear something, I try to be creative. And I think that makes us more creative, and it makes us think of the world a little bit differently. And yeah, maybe I'll stop here.
Thank you, Atiaf. Mariam, it will also be interesting to hear your thoughts on partnerships, both on artist to artist level, and then we've got artist to human rights.
Definitely. To add on what Atiaf is saying, I'd say these partnerships could start in a very simpler level. Let's say we live in a very fortunate time where digital is available. So just reach out to someone that you look up to and admire their work on social media, and just, send them a message. Let's chat. I'd like to take 5 minutes of your time. I'd like to learn what are you doing? Like, I don't know, how are you writing your story? What is your creative process in making a blog, for example? Like, what is your creative process of thinking about a film idea? Or, I don't know, look for someone that you want to copy in a way, not copy by doing everything that they're doing the same way, but in a way that you start by imitating and then you find your own voice. So you see, is this form of art suits me? Do I like it? Do I enjoy it? Oh, it didn't work out. It's okay. I'll imitate something else. And if I find my voice, I'll go with that. The beauty of art is that there are so many variations of where it could go, even in film or in writing or in blogging, social media, whatever it is. Find your voice and then, spread the love as much as you can.
Absolutely. I agree that especially maybe for people who are still at the start of their career, like you said, imitate or maybe use them as a reference. Say, I'm just going to follow their path and see where it leads me. So that is a valid point as well. Nasser, I'm just going to pick on you again, because you did mention partnerships as well, from a kind of like from an NGO level. You said that there are a couple of them, even though there are a few, but sometimes it feels like all of you are working individually. So how do you think the conversations could start so that people could work more together? And I guess that would also reflect on, artists like Mariam and writers like Atiaf. How do you think we could, just come together, collaborate?
Yes. It's a good question. I mean, and the simple answer, as Mariam said, just connect. So just send a message and ask for help. And hi, Mariam. So like, okay, so yeah, ask questions. I mean, also like just not feel that we are competing. It just, I mean, we should work together to help each other. So just, you have your own way of working and I have my own way of working, but we can cooperate and work together to improve our work. And you keep asking. There is no, you will not lose anything. Just send a message and start the conversation. In terms of individual, as like for local organization, as I mentioned, we need to just focus on how we can improve the sectors feel not that we are competing in this industry, but yeah, let's work together and help each other to just improve this industry, which we will, after like we work together, we will bring more opportunities for young people, and we will bring more, more fund to Yemen. I think we should focus on just develop each other work and admire each other work. And at the end, as working in arts, we are delivering the voice of the voiceless, and we let people know what's happening in Yemen. And by improving our work, people will know about Yemen more and know about the culture of Yemen and what's going on in Yemen. So yeah, so this is.
Thank you, Nasser.
Mariam, you just bring your babies out, and you disturb me. I want to say hi, or
I'm so sorry. It's Zina. She's asking for love and she's like, love me right now. I'm so sorry. I just want to add to what Nasser is saying. I absolutely love every word. It's just there is one thing that I kind of disagree with, especially in the field of journalism, saying that we provide voice for the voiceless. I'd argue and say it's not voiceless. We do stories with people, not on them. So we just amplify. Art, just an amplification of existing voices. And the more we are, the better.
Thank you, Mariam. That's also a very valid point.
And if could I add one point, and that onto that, and that is a point that Nasser brought up, which is very important, and that is the importance of spreading the art through the media channels and the social media channels that we have at our disposal today, because that will, exactly as you said, Nasser, help also educating the global audience on what Yemen is. And as exactly as Atiaf said, Yemen is probably one of the more complex, and I say this positively, one of the more complex countries in the world. And I really say that with a great deal of love. And that complexity, I think, should be told. And in order for it to be told, without, obviously, there is a need for support, but there is also a possibility to spread it and to reach out, not only to ask for funding, but also to ask for just to inform that this artist is someone that you think should get more attention, and reach out to people that you didn't think you would reach out to otherwise. So that's just a comment on what Nasser said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. That is absolutely true as well. We have reached the end of the questions, but I would really like to give the floor to any of our panelists to give any final thoughts or messages that they want to give the audience, since we are talking about artists and human rights. No pressure, but if you had any thoughts, please, Atiaf, welcome.
I just want to say that there are many, of course, human rights that we all know of, but it's also a right for us to have the right to be creative, to have the right to think about art, to even just for art's sake, if we wanted to. We have the right to critique it. We have the right, and we have the right to ignore it if we want to. And I think that's also important. And I just wanted to say one last thing is that please don't be discouraged if you are not working in your creative field for money. It's a very hard thing, even outside Yemen, to be honest. For me, I have to have a side job, and I can do my creative writing. I haven't yet been able to balance both. So it's a very difficult thing to do. So, but for some people, it's possible. And if you have that, you have reached the ultimate best. But don't be discouraged if it's not. Just keep doing it if out of love, and one day, hopefully, inshallah, you'll get there. And one thing I wanted to propose, since we're here, is maybe a chat like this. Different people once a month or once every 2 months can maybe bring people together, different types of artists. And I'm also happy to mentor anybody for writing, not filmmaking. If anybody would love, I just wanted to put it out there. Contact me if you're interested.
Thank you very much, Atiaf. That's a very generous offer, and you have brought up some very important points. It would be a wonderful thing to keep having these conversations and open up the opportunity to actually talk and have future collaborations. Would any of the other panelists like to add to that, or also give us their final thoughts?
Can I go ahead?
Of course. I was actually waiting for you to say something.
I just want to follow up on what Atiaf said. It's extremely important, and thank you for saying this, because I can't list the sleepless nights that I had just thinking that I'm constantly heavy with a cause. I can't just do a film because I just want to do a film about a flower or about a specific bird. I constantly need to do something for a cause. And it's a constant struggle. I agree. I have to constantly have part-time jobs and then find time to make films. It just came from Yemen. I barely saw my mom because I'm constantly working. And same for my husband. Yani, it's a constant struggle because as Yemenis, at least how I feel is we are forced to constantly be an activist in whatever we do. We can't just be artists for the sake of art, but we always carry a bigger thing. We carry people that we left behind. We carry those who are not fortunate to have this electricity or this internet, this safety. The AC I have, it's not in Aden, it's not in other cities that are extremely hot. So this guilt is a fuel, but at the same time is very draining. And one of the comments actually here in the participants was like, I hope y'all save Yemen. Well, I know you mean well, probably, and you want to push us and motivate us, but trust us, we are trying and we're only individuals. So it's everybody's thing to keep each other, upbeat and do something. Even, word of encouragement goes a long way.
Thank you, Mariam.
I have nothing else to say, but really thanking all of you for an extremely discussion filled with hope, I have to say, and filled with a great deal of inspiration for me in my uncreative. Well, no, it's actually rather creative, but it's not the level of creativity that you think. But it's still extremely inspiring for me. So I really want to thank you for a very refreshing discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. That's a feedback that we do not take very lightly. Thank you so much. So I would like to pass on to Nasser.
All right. So yeah, thank you, Fatma. Thank you for all of you for being here. I just want to add some, just remind you some about important dates. The festival, as we mentioned, that it will start on the 18th and it will stay for 14 days till the 31st. And ticket will be live on the 12th of into the 12th, 2 days from now. You will have to go and to the website that will go live on the 12th. Choose whatever films and program that you want to watch. Just it's a symbol. Just take it, like put your your information, and like the code will be sent to your email, and enjoy watching in your home with your family. And I hope that you will like and get inspired by the films. And yeah, we will have some couple other Q&A session all the way down the festival. And yeah, and we hope that we will have these more discussion, as Atiaf said. And thank you, each one of you. Thank you, Fatma.
Thank you so much, Nasser. I'd just like to end this by thanking our esteemed guests for taking some time of their day today to be with us here and to participate in such a rich discussion, I would call it. Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, Nasser, Mariam, and Atiaf. And of course, last but not least, is thank you to everyone who has taken part in in today's event by attending. This has definitely, I mean, from my perspective, it was successful, and hopefully, like Atiaf said, we will continue to have these discussions in one way or another. So yeah, that is it for today, and yeah, we hope to see you all very soon. Don't forget to watch the films. Just by the titles, they're incredible. Take care, everybody.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.